And now we will finish chapter 6. We already discussed public opinion. Today we want to talk about the factors that lead to an individual's political socialization. In other words, what is it that, now some adults might, especially in Southeast Oklahoma, some adults might object to what I'm about to say, but human beings in America are not born Democrat or Republican. This is something that is a process throughout one's life that begins, of course, when we're children, for most of us. So we want to talk about that process today. We want to talk about the inputs into an individual's life that lead to their political views and behaviors. We want to talk about the different political ideologies that we can find in America. And then we want to talk about the different orientations or the different groups that make up the political spectrum of the United States of America. Now, I enjoyed reading your discussion from Module 1 and many of you mentioning, all of you, I guess, answering the question about your influences thus far in your life. And for the most part, all of you, I believe, said you were going to be committed to being a responsible citizen. A couple of you mentioned that maybe a weakness that you have is you already have your views and you're not really good at listening to other viewpoints or making a prejudgment about someone who automatically has a different opinion than you. And a lot of people in America go through their life and their political persuasion is exactly what they learned as a child, and it hasn't changed. That's for a lot of people. Not all people, but a lot of people. I'm not here to say that you have to change from what you believed as a child, but to be, I would say, to be a more effective citizen in our country, you want to be open-minded to at least listen to other points of view. Because if you do have the truest point of view, which a lot of people think they do, then it should be able to hold up against other points of view. If yours is the truest or the most correct one, it should not be threatened by other points of view.
Mr. Banks?
Yeah.
I was going to ask this earlier whenever you were talking about the discussion, but I was curious what I had just one point taken off, and I was wondering what that was for.
Okay. Who's talking? Dustin?
Right.
All right. I'll address it after class. Okay.
Okay.
With you personally. Okay. So first of all, we want to talk about the agents that influence our political thinking and our political behavior. The primary socializing agents in each of our lives are those that influenced our lives at a young age. And first among them, of course, is our family, because we are with our family the majority of the time. If you're from Southeast Oklahoma, which I think all of you are, at least now, I know some of you have moved here from other places, but if you're from here, most likely, of course, now you guys are the generation where your parents are about my age, and maybe political affiliations and involvement for my age, my generation wasn't as important as the generation before us. But if you've been around your grandparents, other family members, most likely you have some family members that are very, very tuned in to the political process. And it's very important to them. Again, here in Southeast Oklahoma. Now, if your family's not very politically involved, that is still an influence. Most likely it's going to be passed down to you. If you don't hear about it much in your home, or what you hear is maybe mostly criticism or just dismissing it as nothing we can do about it anyway, most likely those attitudes will, by the process of osmosis, become yours. Then, of course, maybe not so much in your middle school and high school years, but when you get to college. But again, being Southeast Oklahoma, we might find it in our high schools more prevalent, our high school being a socializing agent for politics. I know that my son, when he was 2008, that election, which was the Obama-McCain election, so he would have been about a fifth grader, probably fourth grader, and they had a mock election in his school. So that's even before middle school here in Oklahoma, not Southeast Oklahoma, but a small town like the town we're in now. So that had an influence on his life. Any of you three schools had mock elections since you've been in them, been to school?
I know
we had one my freshman year, so 3 years ago in our AP government class.
Is this Howe?
No, this is Arkoma.
Arkoma. 3 years ago in 2017. So what was the election on, if I could ask?
Well, we just had like a mock presidential election where we made like ourselves.
Oh,
we had
okay.
three different presidents running parties. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Someone from Howe was about to speak, I think.
Yeah, we had a mock one for the last election for president. Um, we were in middle school, most of us, I think, so
Okay.
a few years ago.
Were you going to share the same thing, Dustin, basically?
Oh, well, we don't have it. Well, I don't think we had a mock election here, but I was just gonna say that back whenever I was in middle school, we had one in the 2016 election,
Okay.
and I was somewhere different. I was in a different state at the time, but yeah.
Okay. Anyone, I know some of you are seniors. Did any of you attend Boys or Girls State last year? Of course, they might not have had it with COVID this summer. If any of you juniors do get to attend Boys or Girls State next summer, you will learn very intimately about the way our state government runs. I was able to attend that after my junior year, and that was an influence in my life to learn about the operations of our state government. So it seems like all of you have been in school. You are in the school systems that do that. Alrighty, let me go back to this. Sorry. And then a lot of times, if this is also in Southeast Oklahoma, and it's becoming more and more so, most people here go to church, and church folks talk about politics. Sometimes the preacher will preach about it from the pulpit, although the preacher's got to be careful because you got different groups of people in your church, Democrat, Republicans, and one group doesn't think the preacher should preach about it, and the other group wishes he would. So, but the church can be a very key influence when we're younger. I'm trying to think if when I was in middle school and high school, I had two main preachers at my church, and of course that was when Reagan was president, and we were still in the Cold War with Russia. I don't remember the two main preachers that I had in those years preaching anything political. Not in terms of you need to vote this way because of this issue, or I'm sure maybe there was some sermons about being a good citizen and exercising your right to vote, but nothing about don't vote this way because this is an immoral candidate or so and so. But those are the primary socializing agents. As we get a little older, we have some secondary agents that affect us. Now, I think media could fall under primary if your family is really political and they like to watch the news. And especially the 24-hour news stations that are pretty much all political or political coverage, like CNN, Fox, MSNBC. So I would say that this could be a primary agent depending upon your family. Your peers, that is those that you go to school with, are a secondary influence. different types of leaders that you have, maybe teachers in your school system. If you get a job while you're in high school, maybe your boss is different politically than you, or is the same, and they have an influence in your life. Maybe a specific political leader made an impression upon you, whether it's a national leader. And no matter what you think about him, I'm not endorsing him or I'm not condemning him either way, but I'm just using him as an example. But I think because of him being the first president that had African American hereditary, I think Obama probably had a lot of influence on a lot of young people. Again, I'm not saying good or bad, but just because of him being a first. Just like if Hillary would have became president, being the first female, I think she would have probably influenced a lot of women, a lot of young women. But certainly state leaders can have an influence on us. Maybe one of you, maybe your state representative came and spoke at your school. Maybe he spoke at the Veterans Day program in November. Maybe you had a wounded veteran come and speak at your Veterans Day program. Somebody who is a leader and that you looked up to. My daughter went to a ceremony last year. Well, actually not this past summer, but the summer before. She got academic all-state, and she got to listen to a former NASA astronaut speak. And so he's a leader. He speaks at a lot of engagements. And then certainly maybe local leaders in your community. Maybe the sheriff or the mayor or other leaders within your community influence your life. And then, of course, there can be events such as Boys or Girls State. I can remember going to the National FFA convention, I think my junior year, and Vice President Bush came and spoke at the National FFA convention in Kansas City. Well, what would he speak about? He would speak about the importance of farming and farmers and agriculture. And so growing up in an agricultural community, that resonated. So those kind of events, and they can be on a local level too. You could have maybe a debate in the county seat of Poto in LaFleur County between a couple of representatives that you can attend. These things certainly can be socializing agents. They're inputs that can basically mold our political choices, whether they be our behaviors or our values. We can certainly learn skills and learn knowledge from these influences. And then that will lead, all of these inputs will lead to outputs of how we vote, and if we vote, what level of involvement we have beyond voting, whether we attend political rallies or political conventions, whether we campaign for a candidate, put signs up, you know, whatever it may be, and then our opinions. Just a little humorous moment. At that National FFA convention, my ag teacher, we stayed at the hotel with another school's ag group because their ag teacher and my ag teacher were like best friends, had gone to college together. And the other ag teacher, he leaned over to me when Vice President Bush was coming out on the stage, and he said, like, I'll give you $100 if you run up to the stage and say, I'm going to shoot that guy. Gotta love those ag teachers. That wasn't a good influence. He was just joking though. All right, 3 frames of reference. But before we move on to that, any questions about the agents that influence us? One of you, I think it was you, Dustin, said you do a lot of your own research outside of classes and things, and that's good because there are so many sources of information today, and many of you mentioned this. You don't know which one, you know, there's a lot of fake news. So it's always good to do your own research and not take everything at face value. That will definitely help you to be a strong, responsible citizen in the political process of our nation. Now, we're going to talk about 3 frames of reference that Americans use to think politically. In other words, we have our basically we have our political DNA, which came about because of these socializing agents. But then as we mature and get older, we then we encounter these frames of reference that will be tools that we use to vote. The first one is which party we identify with. Now, we have 2 major parties, and we all are familiar with them, but a lot of people might not realize that they're not the only parties. And not only are they not the only parties, but some people may believe that that's how our government was set up, that we would just have 2 parties, and that's not true either. Matter of fact, our founding fathers, they did not want a party system. It just kind of morphed into that in those first few elections. There are several political parties, but these smaller ones, these less well-known parties, have a hard time breaking through basically the monopoly that Democrats and Republicans have. Any of you started on this module's discussion and been to the Ballotpedia site yet?
Yes, sir.
Was anybody surprised that there are at least 4 candidates running for president? We don't hear about those other 2 unless we do our own research. The media focuses on the 2 main parties. Some people believe that the media does that in a conspiratorial way to keep things the way they are. But, and the 2 candidates that were on the Ballotpedia site with the Democrat and Republican, they were not independents. They were of different parties. So, but party identification is a frame of reference that many Americans depend upon. In other words, whatever party we are registered with, usually it's because we line up with most of the issues that they promote. And so when it comes time to an election, whether it be for a candidate or whether we're voting for an issue like a state question, one of the frames of reference that we have is, okay, how does this candidate line up with the party platform? Now, most likely if someone says they're a Republican, they're going to line up with the Republican platform. And same way with the Democrat platform. But there can be some differences. For example, let's say we're voting for governor in Oklahoma. A lot of times the Democratic candidate for governor in Oklahoma, when it comes to the issue of abortion, for example, many of the Democrat governor candidates would line up with the Republican view and not the Democrat view. So that's just one example. But for the most part, especially on the national elections, we can know that whoever is the Republican candidate, they're probably going to share 95% or more of the same views that we hold. Now, if there's an independent, or maybe you're an independent, you're going to study both candidates to see how they line up with what you believe on issues. In other words, if you are registered as an independent, you're not going to take the Republican platform wholesale, and vice versa with the Democrats. So our party identification, and there are some people who their grandpa was Democrat, their mom was Democrat, they're Democrat, and they're going to vote Democrat. And most likely, if the devil himself were to run as a Democrat, they'd probably vote Democrat. Same way with Republicans. My grandpa was a Republican, and my dad was a Reagan Republican, and I'm a Republican. The second frame of reference is your ideology when it comes to politics. The 2 main ideologies that we often hear are liberal and conservative. And we will stop there and we will examine the spectrum, because there's a spectrum that shows that it's not as simple as just liberal versus conservative. Any questions? about the material. If any of you have a question about a grade like Mr. Wright, you can talk to me when we're done here. All right, so we'll finish up chapter 6 on Wednesday, and we will begin chapter 7. So have a great Monday and Tuesday, and look forward to seeing you then.